So volunteering, of course, like everything, has been challenged by COVID, and everyone would be very aware of this. But of course, as with everything to do with COVID, it's been both a joy and a trial. So the joy has been that I guess there's a lot more innovation. Back in 2016, we had a big household survey looking at volunteering. And one of the interesting things to come out back then, way before COVID, was this move towards more virtual volunteering in this country. So about 50% of the organisations, of our non-profit organisations, were actually already offering virtual volunteering. In other words, people could jump on their computer and they could do things like write up the minutes of something. They could do some search of information. They could be on the phone talking to, people who might be in isolated circumstances. So a whole range of ways that people could volunteer, from their different skills. Maybe it was some writing press releases, or it might be writing event invitations or that sort of thing, or doing analysis of some data. So according to people's skills, for in their own space, working from home or working internationally even, people could still be helping as volunteers. So I guess the status of volunteering just at this minute clearly has still been affected by the fact that people are in lockdown, that it is more this virtual approach that is in play for a lot of organisations still. But of course, not everybody wants to be a virtual volunteer or has the tools or the experience to be a virtual volunteer. So I guess in terms of the status in regard to the technology, it's that great opportunity, but also creating some barriers. And so that's a challenge for organisations. But like all challenges, volunteers can help you get over the challenge. So in other words, if your organisation wants to do more virtual volunteering and take advantage of that opportunity, you can work with volunteers who can do some training, who can help set up a program that will enable people to give that hour of their day or of their night or whatever each week to be able to volunteer. So the corollary of that, though, is those who are so used to coming in, so used to sitting in a room with other people, whether that's packing the packs that go out to people in need or doing the accounts for the organisation or whatever. There's a great loss in terms of one of the key benefits of volunteering, the fact that you are a part of something bigger than yourself. You're part of a group physically bigger than yourself. You're able to make a greater difference because that synergies amongst the different skills that people bring to those tasks and different backgrounds they bring. So at the moment, that element is really quite challenged. And we're all aware that, of course, our older volunteers are the ones who particularly have the time. If you were over 65, you volunteered the most hours on average in our country. I guess to take a picture beyond COVID itself, we know that volunteering waxes and wanes a little bit in terms of the numbers of people who wish to do it. Our work in 2016 found that, in fact, it had grown since our last big household survey about a decade prior. But that was contrary to what a lot of the other studies were saying. They were basically saying that, volunteering is dropping back, and this is something that across the world people are finding that they would like to be doing other things with their time. So that's got a lot of implications for organisations. What are we doing to engage volunteers well and to retain volunteers and keep their loyalty and to get that great sort of satisfaction that they're seeking when they are wanting to be volunteers. So retention is certainly an issue. But we probed in our household survey because we find that people don't always define volunteering in the same way. So, for instance, people, if they're on a board in a charity or a non-profit organisation, the local sports club, whatever, they didn't see that as volunteering necessarily. that was, they were on a board. It wasn't necessarily volunteering. People who were doing things in their church. And, the largest numbers of volunteers are actually in the faith-based sector, and closely followed by the social welfare sector. But people who were doing things with their church didn't see that as volunteering. So when we probed about, what volunteering really is, that giving of time freely, it was something that, we could see that people realised. And so our figures did show that there'd been an increase in volunteering as a result. So I don't know if you're interested in total numbers, but, it's great to celebrate the volunteering spirit and sheer amount of hours that go in. So what we found, there's on average about 2.5 hours a week, for a total of 932 million hours across a year. But the medium number of hours in terms of across a year was 55. So that's pretty healthy. So yes, I guess those trends. The big one has been this worry that in the participation rate of volunteering. But I guess people as well need to know who volunteers. We've talked about our over 65s who've got that precious time to spare. But the interesting thing is that it is people that have got the school-age kids. It's people who are doing things at the school, the kindy, the preschool, the playgroup, etc., sporting clubs. They're putting in a lot of hours because it's a family thing to do. And it's a pretty special thing to do as a family as well. So I guess the other trends that we see are collective volunteering. So very often our organisations are wanting to reach out and get more volunteers, and a good way to do that in a quantum leap kind of way is to link with groups. So we've seen a great surge forward in workplace giving, for instance. Workplaces wanting to go and plant trees as a group, or go and take on a particular task for an organisation. That might be a high-skilled task. It might be, we talked about technology, so a technology organisation bringing their skills to help, or it might be something that, is just painting the building, or fixing the stairs, or that sort of thing. So certainly groups like that, workplace volunteering. I think schools likewise, clubs, friendship groups, and particularly again in that early retiree phase where people are maybe reconnecting with school friends or others that they might not have had time to do more than, lunch once a year, and really enjoy doing something for their community. So that collective volunteering is another element to that. Families, I mentioned earlier, but volunteering as a family in terms of the role modelling for kids or for grandkids or nephews and nieces, that's a pretty special way that people like to do things. And we know from all of our research that any kind of giving of time, of dollars, or in kind, it comes from our early socialisation. So if we see mum and dad doing these things, then we will tend to do that. So you're setting up for a better trend going down the track if you can engage kids early and just do that thing as a family. It really it bonds the family as well as giving an outlet and an insight. People always talked about Princess Di taking her boys, when they were little, to the hospitals to see, what goes on in life that might be a little different to what's in their household. They realising, the privilege that people might have just because they've got their health, or they haven't got food insecurity or whatever. So I think, lots of trends like that are going on, that organisations can see the opportunities and overcome some barriers around those things. Because so often in our classes here at QUT, at ACPNS, we have people who are working for volunteer organisations. They are volunteering. They're not paid staff. We have a mix of people coming in and doing our courses here. And, that's That's great to see the volunteers coming through and finding out more about governance or about fundraising or about social enterprises and how the organisation can look at, they can help the organisation with their knowledge to be able to find new revenue sources, such as social enterprise. So I'd be delighted if people would have a look at the free resources that are available on our website at ACPNS. We've got all of the Giving Australia details there, and you can have a look at the data about volunteering and tips about volunteering and just lots and lots of information and blogs. We also have scholarships to enable people to study and to do our course. So I hope that that's of great use to people and that you jump on and learn a little bit more about the resources available through the Australian Centre for Philanthropy and Non-Profit Studies at QUT. Happy volunteering.